Breathable buildings, it's emphasized on that, and that is the focus of BioLime. Buildings breathe with us. What does that mean? You know, people are concerned about their health. You have to be concerned about your health if you want to sustain a lifestyle based on health and sustaining your life and having healthy blood, keeping yourself free from disease and illness and sick. And how do you do that? You take care of yourself. The breathable building concept, the idea, the vision to BioLime, and what we're doing is the building is a structural representation of a human being. Human beings spend most of their time indoors, and a building should be a representation of the person, of the human being. So what does that mean? Your skin breathes. You perspire, you sweat, you have a jacket you put on you to keep warm. What we do with lime, and the important point of what this phenomenal mineral called calcium carbonate does, is it's an air crystal, and it has a high ability to exfoliate moisture rapidly. So when you're using that as a skin, like an epidermis to a human, and you're using that as a skin to a building, that building is allowed to permeate and wick moisture just like a person's doing. You imagine yourself if you were to visit Rome in the high part of summer. I mean, I've been there and it's been 105 degrees. And what is just incredibly amazing to me is that most of the buildings, like the Roman Pantheon, when it's so hot outside, when you walk inside this building, it's a comfortable 75 degrees, 78 degrees, and stable and dry. And it has no air conditioning system. So it's that phenomenal ability of lime to draw in the moisture of the activity of the people that are in there, the fountains where you have the water, the holy water, and this kind of thing. You know, there's always the ability for this building to breathe and have to pass vapor exchange. Our model and forte is based on and coming from historical building, historical preservation. However, tailoring those true tried and tested concepts for new construction materials, plasters, interior, exterior, stuccos, paints, are based on those concepts of a high vapor exchange and allowing the building to breathe. This is what is important. If a building doesn't breathe, it's just like a human being. It's like putting a bag over you. You will basically suffocate, and buildings do the same. The idea behind BioLime is a performance material. The natural beauty is something that is part and parcel to it. Architectural coatings and finishes for green buildings and new construction applications. BioLime performs best in harsh environments. New Mexico is a testing ground to show how these materials perform. High heat, desert conditions. Northern New Mexico, freeze-thaw cycles. Southern New Mexico, 110, 115 degree temperature applications. This is what BioLime technology is based on. We invite the harsh environments. You know, when you're talking about a natural solar reflective material on the exterior in a wall system that breathes from the inside with the interior plasters, they complement each other. The vapor exchange in a high temperature application like in southern New Mexico in the summertime, you really get to see what the benefit of using lime is in a state like New Mexico. So that's pretty much why we're here. I've been in the building industry since southern Miami, way back in junior high school. And part-time jobs in the summer and stuff like that, working in the building industry. And I've always admired buildings, you know. You spend a lot of time in buildings. As I started getting older, through your adolescent and going into your 20s, you know, a lot of hands-on experiences, how to build and use materials. And then, you know, when you start realizing this, I started working with the hands more. Everything from landscaping, plants, waterfalls, you know, garden wall construction, interior wall construction, whole entire home construction. When I started working with, you know, the cement, when I started working with the cement mortar in the building and all, and you know, you erect the walls, and where I'm from in Florida, it's, you know, concrete block construction. And, you know, you're building heavy solid walls based out of cement. And, you know, by protocol, GC head contractor will tell you, this has got to be painted, and so you prime it, you paint it. And I'd find myself having to go back to that same house, if you would, a year later, sometimes as less as 3 months. Bubble moisture building up behind the paint and things like this. So I started questioning, why is this stuff failing? So I started looking at it in a materials perspective. And that culminated into a whole change of perspective on life. I went back into the landscape design. I was more involved in plant life, and I had a real passion for working with water features. There was a lot of life involved with plants. There's a lot of life involved with flowing of water. So clients would ask me, as I was working around this landscape design, I sure would like my wall to represent the beauty of the plant life and make nice water features and things like this. And to have something that's like, a glue-based paint, if you would, that's kind of like accenting that, it just didn't agree with me. So I started playing around with powders and sanded materials with cement, and kind of just threw my hands into it and come up with some, hand-modeled, plaster in some of these projects that I was doing. And the clients were really digging it. They liked it, and it was neat. It was more of an aesthetic, artistic thing. And then, I had an opportunity to explore that a little more, and started stepping out of the landscape field and really started immersing myself into what minerals were doing for buildings, like stuccos and paints and things like that. When I started seeing failure, it drove me more into why is that happening. So I took a hiatus from the landscape industry, decided to move to Europe, back to my origins, my Italian ancestry. And when I lived there, I moved there, I was just floored and shocked that these buildings that you literally touch in your hands like this were thousands of years old, and what was causing these buildings to last so long, as opposed to where I'm from and in the U.S., where buildings are typically, like I'm used to, 3 years and 7 and 10 years and so on, until you're repairing and replacing materials. So I had experience to work with the lime, architectural preservation. Lime, single-handedly, to my discovery, was that single mineral material that allowed these old buildings to last through time without any climate control systems whatsoever. So when I took notice of that, and I was working with that, and I was imagining what I was doing back in the U.S., working with cements and mortars and latex paints and this kind of thing, hold on a second, this is what's working. So my experience in the wealth of lime and what it's done throughout history, kind of conceived the whole BioLime vision and concept of what I'm doing with BioLime today.